This is the iPhone 14, and this is the all-new iPhone 15. Or this is the 15 and this is the 14. These look too similar. How do you even tell which one's which? We are now just a matter of weeks away from the iPhone 15's official debut, and there's a lot we know about what Apple is changing with the 2023 iPhone lineup. These phones look very similar to the current iPhone 14 line, but Apple did make some surprising changes that you want to know about, because if you miss them, you might just make a very big and very expensive mistake. So in this video, I'm going to help you decide which iPhone 15 is right for you, or even if you should upgrade at all. Let me break down the top 10 changes, the big differences between the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 15. Should you wait for the iPhone 15? Should you buy an iPhone 14 now? Should you skip the 15 altogether, wait for the 16? Let me tell you about all the big differences you need to know and everything we know right now about what Apple is changing and adding with the iPhone 15 lineup. Now, as much as I might poke fun at Apple for their lack of changes with the design of the iPhone 15, the first thing you need to know about the iPhone 15 versus iPhone 14 is that the design really isn't expected to change all that much. In fact, just a couple of months ago, there were some rumors of a major redesign. Maybe something like this, similar to the iPhone 4 from 2010, maybe something with a screen on the back by the camera, maybe some big change to form factor, some new design, some new material. I'm sorry to say that if you're hoping for that for the iPhone 15, I'm sorry to break your dreams, but it's just not happening this year. Instead, Apple is planning some very minor cosmetic changes for the entire iPhone 15 line this year. These are gonna look 95% similar to the current 14 line, with like 3 minor exceptions. The first being that every single model of the iPhone 15 this year is gonna get the dynamic island. So yes, the notch is officially gone for the iPhone 15 Pro series, and the regular iPhone 15 and 15 Plus will all get the dynamic island this year. So now you'll have a little bit more screen real estate, you'll be able to use some of the new features, live activities, cool notification drop-down, stuff like that, coming to all iPhone 15 models this year. The second change is on the bottom, because every single 15 phone as well is going to have a USB-C port. Yes, Apple is finally ditching Lightning. USB-C is going to be on all iPhone 15s this year, though they're not all going to work the same way, but more on that in a moment. And then the third cosmetic change, just on the 15 Pro, should be slightly thinner bezels around the displays only on the Pro model. So if you want thinner bezels and you want to have even more screen real estate to work with, that's going to be coming to the Pro iPhones this year. We should also get the usual stuff, some new colors on the 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro, and Pro Max. We may also be getting a titanium frame instead of stainless steel on the Pro models. That'll be super cool to see. And then we did hear some rumors of like a rounded back on maybe the Pro models, but we haven't heard anything on those rumors for quite some time. But where things start to get a little bit more interesting is with the battery, because we're actually going to see some huge increases to battery life this year on every single model of the iPhone 15 in the lineup. In fact, here's sort of an interesting side-by-side comparison. You can see the jump from the 13 series to the 14 series was very, very minor. In fact, the 14 Pro Max has less battery capacity than the 13 Pro Max, which is really weird to see. But if we look at the 14 series versus the alleged info for the 15 series, we see sizable differences across the board on all models. So battery life here on every single iPhone 15 model should be significantly better. Also, speaking of battery life, processor is going to play a big part in that as well. The newer the processor, usually the more efficient it is. For the Pro phones, again, Apple's going to reserve their newest chip, the A17 Bionic, just for those phones. So powerful, more efficient, better GPU, stuff like that. And then last year's Pro chip is going to go to this year's lower end iPhone category. So the 15 and 15 Plus will have the A16 Bionic chip. So new processors all around. If you want the newer chips, those are only for the Pro phones. Last year's Pro chip is going to go in the lower end phones. Moving on to change number 4, let's talk about the buttons on the side of the iPhone. You might remember a very interesting rumor from a couple of months ago suggested that Apple was going to ditch physical buttons and give us just fake touch-sensitive buttons on the side of the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. Apple was going solid-state buttons this year. It was going to be interesting, but then after some change in rumors or some manufacturing issues, or maybe both, Apple decided to keep with the regular physical clicky buttons, but they are going to make one specific change that is a big deal on the Pro phones. Since the iPhone launched all the way back in 2007, every single model has had this. It's a little volume mute toggle that basically you clicked it one way, it would mute the phone, click it the other way, it would sort of give the phone its full ringer volume. That is now going to be changing on the 15 Pro series and replaced by a mute button that'll be programmable like the Apple Watch Ultra's action button. So the idea is that you could program this to do a bunch of things. You could maybe click it to mute and unmute your phone. You could have it take pictures. You could have it launch apps. Basically a little bit more customization here on the Pro iPhones, replacing that switch with a more useful button. Change number 5 is some good news and some bad news. Remember a moment ago when I talked about USB-C? Yes, that's gonna be great. USB-C port coming to all phones. Goodbye Lightning, sayonara, not gonna miss you. USB-C on all iPhone 15 models this year. But like I mentioned, not all the ports are going to function equally. So a couple of interesting things here. One is that Apple is going to limit data transfer speeds to being fastest only on the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. So if you want Thunderbolt-esque super fast data transfer speeds, you're gonna have to pay more money to get a 15 Pro phone. And then we've also heard that Apple is going to limit data transfer and charging speed based on potentially the brick you're using and also the cable. That if you're not using official made for iPhone certified cables and bricks, you might get slower data transfer speeds and maybe even slower charging speeds. This is Apple taking their obsessive weird control to a whole new level. This would definitely be interesting to see play out. Not sure if Apple's gonna go that extreme and limit your charging speed based off of the cable you're using, but we'll see if that's gonna happen or not. According to the rumors right now, that might be actually a thing. All right, for change number 6, this is probably the most significant on this list, and this is where things get interesting with camera changes. Now, we're looking at big changes to both the Pro phones and also the regular phones. Let's start first with the regular 15 and 15 Plus. Big change this year is that Apple is bringing down the main 48 megapixel camera, their new high-end large sensor camera from their Pro phones, now to the regular non-Pro phones on the 15 and 15 Plus. This should give you better photos, better videos. Apple's utilizing some awesome pixel binning technology to give you higher resolution and higher quality photos and videos on this 48 megapixel main camera sensor on these non-Pro phones. Now, in terms of other Pro features like ProRes video and Pro RAW and stuff like that, that is still rumored to be just on 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. So you're gonna get that larger sensor, but no way to shoot raw photos in the native camera app. So that's gonna be interesting. And then the other big change is gonna be on the Pro phones, but only on the 15 Pro Max. That's because this year we're supposed to see some significant change to the telephoto camera lens system. Apple's rumored to be adopting a periscope zoom lens system that should give you like 10x optical zoom on your 15 Pro Max phone. Only on the larger phone though, not gonna be coming to the regular 15 Pro. Change number 7 is some more bad news, and that has to do with the price. Apple hasn't raised the price of the iPhone in a very long time, but according to rumors, that's gonna change this year. Now, the regular non-Pro phones, 15, 15 Plus, should remain at their current prices, so $799 for the 15, $899 for the 15 Plus, but it looks like the 15 Pro phones will get at least $100 more expensive this year. So that would be $1099 for the 15 Pro, $1199 for the 15 Pro Max. Those are the starting prices, base storage configuration, and they get more expensive from there. No final confirmation on this. Apple usually doesn't like to raise prices, so this is sort of out of character for them, but due to supply constraints, issues with production, maybe having to subsidize Vision Pro headset stuff, or whatever the case may be, looks like according to rumors, Apple is going to raise the price this year of the 15 Pro models. Change number 8 is some more bad news for all of you who don't live in the US, and that is that Apple is looking to be expanding the removal of the SIM tray, that physical SIM slot on their 15 models. We saw this move with all 14 models in the US. There's a little bit of a bumpy transition to eSIM only, and according to some various reports we're hearing, looks like Apple is going to do this in more countries. And for the final 2 things here you need to know, let's talk about some of the big questions. Should you buy the iPhone 14? Should you buy the iPhone 15? Should you wait for those new models? Should you skip it all together? Let me give you like a really rapid fire answer, give you the quick facts on what you need to know. So here's my general buying advice. If you've got an iPhone 13, 12, 11, 10s, or any previous model, and you're itching for an upgrade, and you're okay with the current iPhone pricing right now, I would probably wait for the iPhone 15 because you are gonna see some pretty significant updates. You're gonna see that nice 48 megapixel main camera on every single model. We should be hopefully getting the dynamic island, obviously, better battery life, better processor. If you're okay with the current iPhone pricing, if you're budgeting for that, and you've got an older iPhone model and you've waited this long, I'd wait for the 15. You're gonna be happy and get a really great model. Where things get a little bit more interesting and complicated is if you have a current iPhone. If you got an iPhone 14, you're looking at the iPhone 15, should you buy now, should you wait? As a current iPhone 14 Pro Max owner, I find it difficult to justify the purchase. Yes, I'm an Apple fanboy. Yes, I'll probably buy the phone because I'm a sucker for Apple and that's what I do. Try to justify that's my job, but that's besides the point. But looking at things like objectively speaking, not a lot of huge upgrades. Like, yes, I'd get better battery life, I'd get the new processor, I'd get thinner bezels, I'd get the better optical zoom if I went with the 15 Pro Max. Those are nice things, but like year over year upgrades, not a whole lot here to see. There's some nice things and you can sort of justify it, but it's not gonna be a huge upgrade. Like if you have an older phone, it's a lot bigger deal. But as always, what are your thoughts on this? What iPhone do you have right now? Are you looking to make the move to the iPhone 15? Are you gonna stay with the iPhone 14 or iPhone 13? What do you have right now? Do you think the iPhone 15 line looks exciting? Is it boring? Are you going to upgrade your phone? Let me know in the comments down below, we can discuss. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I'll see you all in the next one.